Governor Abbott is also threatening to remove Democratic lawmakers who left the state, and he's accusing them of bribery for accepting political donations while not working at the Texas Capitol. Here to share some analysis of what we're seeing right now is Mark Jones. He's a political science professor at the University of Houston. Mark, welcome to our show and thanks for being with us today.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We, of course, have been here and seen Democrats leave the state before to block some Republican different proposals. But what the governor is saying about this now is just a little bit different. So what do you make of his argument seeking to potentially vacate Democratic seats in the Texas House?
Well, the governor really doesn't have that authority. The only authority that can remove members during a period of office is the House itself by a 2/3 vote. And that would mean you'd have to have the quorum there, and they don't have it. So all of that is primarily bluster and is unlikely to actually have the effect of removing you. And more likely than not, they'll all be back here in Texas on the House floor in about 3 weeks.
Okay, so as you mentioned there, though, it does seem that the governor would have to turn to the courts in some cases, and an argument he's making to move forward with efforts to vacate Democratic seats. And he's even contending he'd have the constitutional authority here in Texas to fill some of those. Where do you think this could potentially lead the state, though?
None of that will actually come to fruition. The governor really doesn't have that authority, especially for what will end up being a 2 to 2.5 week quorum break. Now, maybe if they weren't here for a year or 6 months, you might be able to make a case, although I think you'd still be on thin ice. But that's more just political talk right now. It's not going to actually result in any of these Democratic legislators being removed from their seat.
Do you foresee the Texas Republicans eventually being able to move through these new maps that they've now put on the table and hoped to vote on today, but obviously cannot?
No, the most likely scenario is that these maps will come up in a second special session, which Governor Abbott will immediately call after the end of this first special session. And at that point, Democrats are more likely than not going to engage in another quorum break. And at that time, the maps will be passed in the House and in the Senate and become enforced in time for the 2026 elections, where we'll have 5 more potentially Republican-leaning seats.
I've had a chance to talk to you over the past couple of years about some of the polling that's been done there at the University of Houston's Hobby School. And what I'm wondering is what you're interested in learning about how voters will interpret this whole saga.
Well, effectively, you have 2 sides here. The Republican side is that they are legally justified to do this, and they are. But the Democratic side is that in doing it, they are undercutting the ability of underrepresented minorities to be represented in Congress. And so I think from a polling perspective, it will be interesting to see how many Democrats or Democratic voters or voters in general agree with the Democratic position, and whether any of those individuals are these what we often call soft Democrats, people who often don't turn out to vote or who often at times will vote Republican. Will they be convinced by the message, and will that lead them to both turn out to vote and vote Democratic? Or will this be a message that after this whole quorum break is over and after the map has been passed, effectively dissipates and remains something that really only hardcore activists are concerned about? And at the end of the day, hardcore activists are going to vote and vote for their party, regardless of what occurs during this summer session.
Is that something that you're going to be asking voters in a poll to come out maybe relatively soon?
Well, yes, the Hobby School will have a poll this fall where one of the issues that we'll be looking at is this issue of redistricting and what the public's opinion is on redistricting.
All right, we will look forward to those results. But Mark Jones of the University of Houston, thanks again for being here.